Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm going to do just a quick review video on my everyday carry. This is my USP full-size 9mm gun that I am currently carrying out of state, and I call it the USP Traveler. And I'll just show you guys real quick. Unloaded, nothing in the mag, but it does have a follower so that I can manipulate the slide. So let's talk in depth, or let's go over my USP Traveler that I take with me when I go on work trips and pretty much anytime I leave the house. This is my USP Traveler right here, and we're going to go over the entire pistol right now. So let's start with the frame. The frame is molded in my favorite RAL 7008, which is called Khaki Grey, and it is the best tan that, in my opinion, H&K molds their frames in. There are a few others, RAL 8000, there's a tan one, an FDE one, but for me, this is the end-all be-all frame color. I absolutely adore it. Seconded only to olive drab green or ODG, yeah, olive drab green. I really like the ODG frames as well, and I have a few of those, but this is the only FDE or khaki gray frame I have, and I absolutely love it. Look how gorgeous that thing is. So you will notice I have a metal jet funnel here on the bottom of the frame. This is factory Heckler Koch. It is actually steel. You put a steel plug here in the back when you install this jet funnel, and it threads in to this steel plug in the back of the frame. It is black nitrided, just like the slide is, just like the barrel is, so it won't wear out, it won't get all corroded, you don't have to worry about it, just like the base plates. These are also steel. These are 18 round jet funnel magazines with factory steel base plates in steel nitride or black nitride. And they up the capacity of a factory USP from 15 rounds to 18 plus 1. So if I'm carrying an extra magazine, I actually have 37 rounds on me, which is a pretty good fighting chance. And on the H&K USP, I have a paddle mag release, which I can activate with my trigger finger, which I absolutely love, because during a reload, my trigger finger isn't doing anything anyway, and I don't have to break my grip to get it to the thumb. It's just not super natural for me. So for me, a trigger finger activation is just a very natural feeling way to release the magazine. The USP has a little cutout so that you can actually get to that with your trigger finger or with your thumb, so that you won't get hung up on the trigger guard. So that's why it has that nice little teardrop shape. It also has elongated the length of the trigger guard and has clearance for the actual sweep of the trigger. So if you're wearing big bulky gloves in a winter environment, which where I'm at, it gets -40 in the winter and it's pretty chilly. So I do wear big bulky gloves. So you can actually still get to the trigger with your big bulky gloved finger, which I actually really like. If you didn't know, the USP has a non-proprietary rail that is USP specific or HK specific. Nobody uses it. It's not Picatinny rail, but it was an industry first. They were the first manufacturer to put a rail system on their gun, and then of course nobody adopted it. But now it is, Picatinny rail is pretty much standard on just about every pistol, and HK was the leader in that. I am running a Surefire Turbo. This is the U, or the Turbo Universal B model. You can see the thumb screw here. And then the adapter system is actually by my company, Defender Automatics, the reproduction of Surefire's MR09. So that's how I've adapted this Surefire T300 to the USP. Now you might notice something about my USP that most USPs don't have, and that is this silver axle and hammer. This whole internal of the USP is actually coated by a coating called NT7. If you guys remember Robar NP3, this is the successor to Robar's NP3. It's Wright Armory's NT7. They basically bought out Robar and changed the formula or updated it, made it even better. And it is basically Teflon coating or a Teflon type of coating for the internals that make everything on the action feel super smooth. So this feels like a nice high-end custom trigger job, but it's a factory stock reliable trigger. This is called the LEM trigger variant. What it allows with the LEM trigger is a really smooth, really nice and crisp wall on a trigger brake on a factory trigger. So it's super duper reliable because nothing has been changed and there's no work done to it. It's literally just coated on the internal. So the trigger bar, the axle, the sear, everything that you could have that's metal is now coated in this NT7. They even do this really nice rubberized texture to the hammer that you can see. And it just feels really nice. Like on an LEM version, you can't like cock the hammer back, but it is a very nice tactile feeling, and I love that Wright Armory does that. So I had all of my internals coated with the NT7 coating, and it really made a huge difference in the way that the LEM trigger feels. Now LEM, that stands for Law Enforcement Modification. And the reason I like the LEM so much is it gives me a very consistent trigger pull. It is a double action only trigger, which most people will think is insane. But here's the fun part about an LEM. It is the only double action trigger that I know of that is pre-cocked. Now, what does that mean? Now, if I had a double action, single action, if I wanted to pre-cock my hammer spring, I'd pull back the hammer. That would cock the spring here. And then the trigger would go back, the hammer would stay back. Well, on an LEM, because it's a double action only, you can't actually pull the hammer back and lock it there. The trigger will never be able to lock back and the hammer will never be able to lock back. Hammer will always be at rest, trigger will always be at rest. But the hammer spring has already been pre-cocked. So this travel to the wall right here, this is only about 1.5 pounds. Super light, super smooth, super easy to get to, but then a very firm wall. And once I hit that wall, I can creep, 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 and get a very nice glass-like break. Then the shot cycles, I can get to the reset point, which is super crisp, right back on that wall, and go. And it basically is a double action trigger that has pre-cocked the hammer spring each time the slide cycles. So each time I want to take a shot from here, it's like a single action only, super short, super crisp, super light trigger brake. It feels like a striker fired or single action only gun, but it is a double action only gun with a really light take up because of that pre-cocked hammer spring. And it's the only manufacturer I know of that does this, and it's the perfect carry gun because if I'm going to pull this trigger, it's super long and super deliberate until I get to that wall. But once I'm there, I'm like, okay, like it's game time, it's time to go, and we're going to break that shot. And once I'm on that, once I'm going real fast, it feels like a single action or striker fired gun, even though it's a hammer fired gun. And with the NT7 trigger component coverings or coatings, it feels like a really, really nice, like match style trigger, but with factory reliability. And that's why I really like that LEM trigger. It also gets rid of the multi-function lever completely from the frame because you can't decock it because there's no need to. That's the whole reason you have it. And you don't need an external safety because of the super long take-up. For me, the multi-function delete is a great thing because it actually stuck out so far and went so far forward, it impeded my ability to release the slide stopper or get my thumb to the slide stop. And that's a problem for me on a full size. On a compact, it's actually a little bit smaller and it doesn't impede it, so I can actually get to it pretty quick. But on a full size, I literally cannot release the slide with my main hand because that lever is in the way. But on an LEM, I certainly can get to it no problem. And for me, that is wonderful. Also, when I put it away appendix, if something were to get stuck in the trigger, you could hammer or keep your thumb on the hammer and you would notice if it was coming back and keep it from discharging into you when you're carrying it in a very vulnerable area. Sight-wise, I'm running suppressor height blackout sights. That's what come with the iDot system when you send it to Wright Armory. The optic I chose is the Trijicon RMRcc. The reason I chose the CC instead of the regular RMR is for the width. Look at that width. The only thing whiter than the slide release is the flashlight, and when the flashlight is off, the slide release is the whitest part. Everything else is super smooth and tucked in nicely, so against your body it doesn't feel badly, or doesn't feel bad. So I really like the RMRcc. It's the same height as an RMR, you just get a little bit less width in your window, which can be a challenge if you aren't used to a good presentation, but the more you practice your presentation, the more it feels just like a regular RMR. So for me, the width did not really detract from the window being usable. I still find it incredibly usable, but looks sleeker for the aesthetics that I was going for, which I think this is a very aesthetically pleasing gun. So the RMRcc was the chosen optic for the iDot from Wright Armory, and then on the back I am running a blackout serrated Glock style rear sight. You'll notice that I have tape over the front of my optic. I run an occluded dot because it actually keeps me incredibly target focused, and for anything really 50 yards and in, it's not a hindrance for me. It actually makes it so that I am 100% positive I'm focused on the target, because a dot will appear on it, and if I'm not focused on the target and I'm focused on the dot, I won't be able to see the target at all because I won't be able to see through the window. So for me, occluded shooting is been the fastest way for me to really be accurate and fast with my handgun, is to not allow me to look through the window or track the dot, and to be target focused. So occluded shooting allows me to do that. So this gun, I have a spare barrel and recoil assembly from a Tactical, so I can suppress this, and I do often carry a suppressor with me when I'm on the road, but I had it last week and I wanted to clean all of that kind of stuff. So I went back to just a non-suppressed version for this trip out, but I do have a suppressor and tactical recoil assembly, and it suppresses really nice with the Omega 9 from SilencerCo. Gives it about a, probably about to there. It's a really great can for 9mm and for the USP platform. I think it balances it really well. So overall, what do I think of this gun? It's probably my favorite USP I've ever had in my entire life. The LEM trigger with the NT7 coating is like having a match style trigger, but the OEM reliability. I love having a dot. I love that the coating on the nitride on the slide is still factory. I love the tan color. I love the weight that the jet funnel adds to the bottom of my hand and keeps it nice and low of the gun. And I love having this huge, bright, shining X300 Turbo on it in a rock solid mount. So for me, overall, like, this gun it's the best. The USP Traveler. Highly recommend it. Pick one up.